I won't say non-existent.
Wow.
My mother, you know, had to pick up the pieces for everything. Right. And I think that's a lot of African American stories.
Yep.
To be honest with you, you know, and even though, you know, I came out, you know, as a great man, you know, but certain things and insecurities that can play on me with no fatherhood, no parental figure to look up to, it definitely plays a part, you know, when it comes to the mental capacity and just, you know, toxic way of living.
How was your home, like the support system?
So my family, so I'm Dominican American, Afro-Latina. And in the Dominican Republic, it's very much like Nigeria. Everybody's in your house.
Yeah.
But, you know, now there's this disconnect because a lot of us have migrated here. I'm first generation. My mom came here when she was only in her 20s, and she was all by herself. And when she had me, unfortunately, things between her and my dad didn't work out, and he was deported, which is a whole different story. So I didn't have that either. I didn't have a father figure, which made it hard for me as a woman to understand how should men be treating me? How should I allow men to treat me? How should I be treating myself? Because my mom, kind of like your mom, she's a single parent, so she had to basically be mom and dad, which means she wasn't around much. And I am also a person who has tried to commit suicide because I felt very lonely at some point in my life. And it happened to me twice, actually, that I tried to do that. So that's why in retrospect, looking back, I understand that I wasn't diagnosed with depression or anything. I was very young. I was 14 the first time I tried, or 13, and then the second time I was like 17. I can't say that I didn't have everything I needed as growing up. My mom, she did everything for me. She's my rock, so till this day I'm very grateful, and I'm glad that Allah gave me another chance to be here so I can show her that I appreciate her. See, when I was younger, I had a moment where I allowed myself to fall into despair. I had 2 moments when that happened, and I wasn't Muslim, so I didn't know about these teachings or anything like that. I just knew what I was going through at that moment, at that place, at that time, and I couldn't see past it. So I went for it. I went for what people will call the easy route, which is to end it. But like I said at the beginning, it's that I'm taught now as a Muslim that we shouldn't fall into despair. And I know this firsthand because at that time, that's exactly what happened to me, was that all I could see is the negativity around me. I couldn't look anywhere else but the negative. My mom's never home. I'm never with my mom. I can never have a conversation with her. She doesn't understand me. She doesn't want to be around me. Like, you know, it affects you, but you don't see. Mom is actually working her ass off right now. Mom is like doing the most for me. I'm in the best schools. I'm getting the best clothing. I'm getting everything I desire, even though I wasn't really a picky child. I didn't ask for much. But anything I opened my mouth, she would get it for me. And I couldn't, but I didn't have her there. So that loneliness led me to it.
I have a question about that. So did your mother know that you felt this way?
Of course not.
No, she didn't.
If she knew that, she would have probably dropped everything and just held me, stayed with me for a month.
So is this something that we should be saying to parents, is that they need to start paying more attention to these kids?
I don't think that's fair. It depends on the circumstances. Because she was completely alone.
I mean, but to actually have this conversation. I mean, I'm saying, like, just like how we have conversations with our children about sex. I feel like we should also have that, because especially with social media that's coming out. Let me say, because especially with social media that's coming out, all of these kids, there was the little kid that killed herself just because a viral video went out of someone like either like hitting her or pulling down her pants. There's so many kids that are having, and I feel like we as parents, or our parents today, need to start treating these kids and the mental illness, stuff like that, just like
it's really hard.
No,
but
you have to because listen, how do you treat a broken arm? Your child's broken arm. You take them straight to the emergency. Take them to a psychiatrist. Take them to a therapist. You need to have these conversations.
You know what's crazy about what you're saying is that even though me and my mom never had a conversation about what I was going through, it kind of was clear to her that there was something wrong with me, even as a young child, because I remember that she did put me in therapy when I was like 8 or 10, and it was because of things that I was saying to my peers and that my teachers were hearing me say.
And that's what parents don't do. Parents don't do that.
There was clues.
Kids in adolescence, they hide.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of them.
Yes, and I was hiding most of that.
Realize that.
A lot of kids are in elementary, and their teachers give them journals. I really don't like to put my family's business out, but there was a point in time where my younger brother in elementary said that he wanted to commit suicide. He was chubby. He was always being picked on, and the fact that my mother, and I love, her to death, and she was the best mother. She is the best mother. The fact that we did not take him to therapy is a problem.
But it was a different time during the
that's the thing. We think that black culture period, thinks that therapy and all that is toxic.
I think there's a difference between the African American home and the African home.
Yeah. Okay. What's the difference?
So I think the difference is in the Black American community, there's more compassion. I know it's not much, but I think there's a little bit more than the African community.
Why?
I agree. As to Cody's point earlier, whereas in the continent, it's taboo. Hold on. Let's say I go to my parents and tell them I'm suicidal. I mean, you guys, they will denounce me.
Yeah,
like,
you're crazy.
It's not like okay, what can we do? Yeah. Let's take you to the therapist.
Yo, Nigerian parents are frustrated
they are
on 100.
hard on us. Like you cannot be depressed. It's not an option.
It's an embarrassment on the family.
So if, let's say, one of you guys, as men now, were to come up to your mom and say, "Mom, I don't think I can do this anymore. I think I want to end it."
What? God forbid.
Luckily for me, my mom is a very strong Nigerian, but she's a social worker too. She has 2 master's degrees in social work.
My mom was
she's like a therapist, basically. And not everybody has that. So it's 2 sides. Yeah.
And it's to the point, it's so unfortunate. I would feel like they would almost blame me. It's like, why would you feel this way? We give you everything you need, anything, So it's almost like, and that's the culture mentality. They will understand. Hey, you want to, what? You want to commit suicide? It's literally a disgrace. Not only a disgrace, but now you're disrespecting me. You're disrespecting me because I have given you everything, anything, and everything you wanted or ever need. So you're basically saying that I cannot provide for you. Now you want to kill yourself. To an African parent, you saying that you want to commit suicide is a disgrace.
It's very one-sided. It's very one-sided, as in like the way they view it. Because like I said, they're seeing it as the question that we presented, is it selfish? They would definitely see it as selfish without understanding that perhaps what you need is a change of perspective, just a conversation with them that can change your mind.
Education plays a huge part.
Education, but you have to be willing to understand.
Let me stop you right there.
Why do you think that is the thing in our African community? But we're just like so...
Wait, hold up. With my mom, she would ask why. Like, that would be like the why. And depending on the why will depend on how she will react to it. She'd be like, if it's something like, if she feels like it's petty, she'd be like...
Like something you can get over.
Yeah, it's like you can get over it.
Do you think it's because Africans are more in touch with real life, like reality as it is?
Yes, they are. The reality is...
What do you mean by that?
No.
I think it's because...
Time out. You saying that Africans are more in touch with real life?
With real life and the essence and the meaning of what life is supposed to be and what's important, maybe.
I disagree.
I disagree.
I think that, look, speaking of African Americans, I think that personally it's all about your experiences, your life experiences. If you have not traveled the world, if you have not studied and dealt with different cultures and lifestyles, and you're very primitive. You don't know what life is about outside of your cubicle. So but at the same time,
exactly what
you have to, you have to branch out. I had to, call time on, I had to foul play, So I think technically, I mean, for her to speak on, what she believes in, I can't, that's her opinion. So I respect her opinion, but I disagree with it because that's disregarding not even just African Americans, but entire, races of people. Like everyone that has a culture that they stand upon, everyone has belief systems that they stand upon. To just disregard that and say, well, Africans, it's just pretty much just saying Africans do it better, F the rest.
When I say that Africans are more in touch with the realities of life, it's because we go through so much. We have been through so much. And I would say the same for anyone that's been through hardships, but I mean, no one has been through hardships like the African community. And we are slowly and surely on the rise. And that is a benefit because we are in touch. We do know what's real. We do know how to ground ourselves.
To be honest, when it comes back to what they were saying, the mental health and everything and depression, me personally, therapy did a lot for my life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that us as not even just as a race, but as people, we don't seek out people to talk to, other than our circle, which have a biased opinion towards us. Definitely. And we need to speak to people who can outwardly just look at our lives and evaluate it.
But where are the mental health? Where are the mental health?
Exactly. I think we need to have more black male and female therapists and psychiatrists.
I agree.
In these neighborhoods.
Because there's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect. Somebody that doesn't look like you that has your same experiences, because a lot of these white therapists will go, within these.
You guys go to a white therapist?
I would rather go to black therapist.
I would rather
because somebody that I can relate to. When you go to therapy, you want to actually relate to them.
Can I ask a question? What about
necessarily? Like you could meet somebody who's a therapist, who's educated.
But you know what?
I just want to mention one thing. I just want to mention one thing.
Can I ask a quick question? So let's talk about therapy shaming. Like, how do you guys feel like in the black community, African American and African communities, that we look at therapy and mental illness?
This is what I feel personally.
Okay, I'll talk before that.
Sorry, bro.
Go ahead.
I feel personally that it comes in the form of, like a lot of times it's like you're weak. If you go into therapy, you're a weak dude, you're not a man, you're not an alpha, but a lot of times it's needed. We have toxic relationships in our lives every day. And, I found personally, like, the therapist I had, she was a white woman. And even though we can say there was a disconnect there culturally, she's able to look at me unbiased. Sometimes, you can go into a therapy session with a mind to say, there's a black woman here, she reminds me of my wife, she reminds me of my girlfriend. This brings pain in my life, or she may look at it biased. You know what I'm saying? It can happen. Because look, it gets deep, it's layered. But at the same time, this is what, sometimes it can play on the mental. Now, a person is a professional, they won't ever look at you that way, but in your mind, you may think
only white people are professional.
No, I never said that. Sometimes, and I made a mention of, like race playing a part in therapeutic sessions, like certain people, like they can't, because if your wife is, African American or black or African, you can't face another black woman. It hurts you inside, or you can't face someone, or if you're a woman, like, you want it to be neutral. You don't want to be judged, or you want to feel as if, like, I get this at home. I argue at home with him. I don't want to go to another black man, and maybe he may judge me, so I need a neutral person. And that's what I went through. And, at first I said, no, I need someone black to understand they need to know my, what I go through, and I had to really humble myself and say, well, we're all people. We all still have struggle. We all eat, sleep, and shit. So at the end of the day, we have to realize that we're all in this together, and that's the bottom line.
So this is the problem in the African, at least, household. Africans are, at least my family and our culture, we're very, very private. So that is the issue. So for you to have to go to a therapist, you're spilling out beans. I'm finding out stuff at this age about stuff that my family held back and did not tell us because they don't want us knowing, or they don't think that we can handle it.
What is that secrecy thing about?
It's the culture.
It's pressure.
It's toxic. It's toxic.
Like I found out that
it is.
And it's the littlest thing. I found out that my dad was married before my mother. My mom knew, and I had 2 sisters that were 10 years older than me. My mom knew. I would always see my dad go to Chicago, Nigeria. You know, my dad was the guy. And, you know, he would be like, "Oh, I went to go see your cousins." Like, what? My cousins? Oh, okay. What's up? And then in like 2003, finding out that they're my actual sisters.
Wow.
You know, and I got mad. Like, why, Mom? Wow. Dad, why would you hold this back from? My mom was like, you know, we just wanted to protect you guys. We didn't think that, you know, we thought that you would feel. It's not shameful.
But wait, you don't feel like it's changing though? Like
no, it's not.
A little bit. It ain't changing a little bit.
It's not. To tell a genuine African from Africa that go to a therapist to talk to, because you can't talk to me, the person who birthed you. You came out of this, and you can't talk to me, but you want to talk to another person and pay them. It's disrespect.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change.
That's not going to change. But I think it's toxic. It's toxic, though. I think that's toxic behavior.
It comes from the culture perspective. Like, I remember when I was younger, my mother, she's from Morocco. If I was feeling depressed or feeling sick or whatever, like, "Oh, Mom, I think I need to go see a therapist," she would say, "Oh, no, you don't need to go see a therapist. Why? They're gonna give you medication. They're gonna give you medication. You're gonna be weird and stuff. We don't believe in that, and where I come from. And then I go and I travel to Morocco and I see people. I've what you said. Traveling is very important. You are learning so much stuff about people and mental illness and yourself. And mental illness is a huge thing that not a lot of people are aware of.
Let's just bring it back to what it's actually like about. Is suicide selfish? Like, what about like Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade? These people that went ahead and just like...
When you're literally leaving your family...
Anthony Bourdain, you have the best job in the whole entire world.
Exactly.
That's the people things. Those are material things.
On a shallow level. The depth of the individual, you know?
So no,
I
don't believe it.
Wait,
so if you were in his position...
Don't you think it's funny that like homeless people still stick it through, but we have a lot of rich celebrities killing themselves? Don't you think that's kind of like, all right...
Selfish?
No. Here's where the mental illness now takes effect.
Because you're dealing with someone who has nothing to lose, though.
Yeah.
What do they have to lose?
Yeah, they don't have nothing to lose, but...
It has nothing to do with that.
That's what you guys say,
Wait.
because you're the one who mentioned weakness and selfish multiple times in earlier points.
But wait, you taking weakness as a negative thing.
For you.
Oh no, I'm coming back. I'm here.
Akron kept using the word weakness a lot, and it kept bugging me because he kept associating weakness. Having a mental health in a way was a weakness. I mean, Cody brought up the fact that they're working on diagnosing the issue, the mental health issue somebody goes through or somebody has before that leads them to commit suicide. And a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of stuff that leads people to commit suicide. It's like depression, anxiety, social environment, and when someone is weak in something, they could work on it. They could better it. When someone has a mental issue, it's very difficult for them to work on it.
Wait, weakness is not a negative thing. I know everybody likes to look at it like, oh, you're being weak.
I don't think the word
it's kind of
weakness
like together when you are saying that suicide is selfish.
Tell me what's the problem with weakness?
As weakness.
But
what's the problem with weakness?
I also want to know what's the problem with weakness.
It has a negative connotation. No matter how many times.
Do you want to be
What's
weak?
the dictionary meaning of it?
I don't want to be weak doesn't mean I'm not.
What
That's
does
the
that
difference.
mean?
I can be weak in different aspects of my life.
Right.
I think
and I can be okay with that.
You don't have control over it.
that way? Would you prefer
it doesn't matter what I
weak?
prefer. I'm talking about reality right now. Reality is we're all weak in some level. You may be great at math. Honey, I suck at that. I'm weak in that.
Me too.
And you know what I could do? I can accept the fact that I'm weak in this and work on it.
But that's you, and the reality is most people, when you say the word weakness, automatically there's a negative connotation.
It can have a negative connotation. It's true, but that's something that society has created around that. The reality is,
this is the society that we have to live in.
I was one of the people who actually didn't see weakness as a negative connotation. I see it as the reality of things. Human beings, we are weak beings. We are not, I understand when people say, oh, you shouldn't use weakness, you shouldn't say weakness in certain situations. If it's used in slang term, like, oh, you weak, that's different. When we're talking about this specific thing, this is really a weakness that someone is going through. And when I talk about weakness, I'm talking in relation to a strength that you have. Right now, you aren't strong in this moment. How are we gonna make you stronger in this? That's how we have to look at it. Instead of being so touchy about the semantics of the word, being touchy about the reality of our situation. This person needs to be strengthened. That's what we have to focus on.
How does the weakness connect to the mental illness, though?
It's because you're going through something, right? Whatever it is, whether it's mental or physical, you can have the greatest life, quote unquote, to society and still be internally going through with a depression. Now, mentally, you don't have the strength to continue on with life anymore. So what happens is, it's like, all right, I'm gonna end life because I don't have the strength. There are people who
that's weak.
That's weak.
Okay.
That is weak.
But
there are some people.
Or no?
Wait. Let me go.
There's some people. It's multifaceted. I want to answer.
No. I got your answer.
Okay. Thank you.
When people are sick, there are people who literally, bless you. There are people who are
weak because you say.
There are people who. But you work on that. You work on that.
Do you know there's people who actually like when they're sick, they just give out and they die because they honestly don't have the strength, the physical strength. Now we're talking, that's physical aspect. Now when we touch the mental aspect of it, there is that weakness that plays a part. Now, when I said the whole selfishness thing, it came in with the intention, like I'm looking for attention. That's where the selfishness comes in. It is what it is. We want to sugarcoat shit, but the problem is we don't touch the reality of it, and then we don't fix it. Now we have a big issue. Instead of calling it what it is, if I'm sugarcoating it like, put a Band-Aid on it. No, it's not like, we're not solving it.
Sorry for those people.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. We're not going to switch what I'm saying. What I'm really saying is,
What are you saying?
I'm saying that this is the issue, is a mental weakness. Now, how do we address it? How do we fix it?
I don't like that. Mental weakness, I don't like that. I think you should say impaired, maybe. Because it's something. Because weakness.
Right, it's just a different word.
Yeah. You hear how it sounds? Impaired means something that's you don't really have control of.
But weak can be hurtful to someone.
You can have more control of weakness. Like her example that she gave about the math. If she's not good at something, she's weak at something, she could work on that.
So going to therapy and taking meds, that's not having control over.
That is.
That
is working on
that
it.
Control.
Right.
That's working on your.
Not everyone has access to
That's true.
therapy and meds.
Yeah.
I have a curveball. What do you say to the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds that commit suicide? Are they selfish? Because they're just children.
No.
I really like that you said that
I
because talking with kids,
it's
that question because it's
kids and adolescents. So there are stats that show, especially between grades 9 and 12, that black students, in terms of the rate, is about 9.98, while white students are more like 6.1. So within that time frame of specifically high schools and pre-adolescents, blacks are more predisposed, to suicidal thought, and that adds,
because of the environment.
Exactly.
So society has
exactly. Yeah. And so, with that point, I don't even think that 10-year-olds almost understand.
Of course they don't. Their brains are not even fully formed.
They don't even understand the word. I think selfishness in terms of. Am I doing this to hurt my family, or am I doing this to hurt myself?
I don't think they can
so
think
that. That kind of changes the meaning or the way you're trying to use selfish, right? So when you kill yourself, isn't it kind of selfish because you want better for yourself? You feel like this is the best for you.
No.
So isn't that because when you say selfish, usually when we're saying selfish, we're saying self like. you know, you guys don't matter. I know it's gonna hurt you guys, but you know, I'm gonna kill myself.
The worst example of that is like a mom, right? A mom with kids.
Right.
That's what I think about, like, mostly when I think, oh, that was a selfish act.
Right.
Like when you're a mom or a dad and you have kids to look after, people that are like really, really relying on you, and you kill yourself and you take yourself out of their lives in this world.
So aren't the parents selfish?
You're saying
You think that you're thinking about I'm thinking about myself instead of what you were going through. I think that's the selfish
I think the
part.
word that we should be using instead of selfish is selflessness. People commit suicide because they feel that they are a burden on the people that they love the most, and they feel that the world will be better without them.
And
they
that's
are
why
almost being
bringing up the point of the chemical imbalance. You have to understand they have an illness. They literally think, I am a burden to this world, and this world will be better off without me.
So I have a question though.
They legit think that.
Right.
So I want to go back into what we were talking about with children. So I don't know if anybody saw 13 Reasons Why.
I didn't catch
Huge show.
Okay.
I didn't see it.
Huge show. So, okay, I'll let you know quickly. It was about a high school girl who was raped, who felt like the world was always against her. Right. Beautiful girl. You know, moved to a new school. The family didn't really see it, but like they started seeing little things, and then she made a 13-episode cassette tape talking about 13 people who did her wrong. It was even, some of them were her best friends, and they didn't even know. You know, so... And then she killed herself at the end, slit her wrist, and went into the bathtub. And her parents found her. Very dramatic, very, very, very powerful. But it almost dramatized it, because there was also, after that came out, I think it was a kid in Brazil or somewhere out of the country who basically mimicked the exact same thing.
And this is why I brought up the point with the kids. Because of social media, media in general, I feel like a way to prevent suicide, especially for kids, you know how like we potty train babies, like we literally have to do like social media training from like, especially because like they're coming up, like we had a little bit of a childhood, you know what I mean? But like they're coming out the gate.
This was nothing that I grew up with.
They're coming out the gate, and this is like the first thing that they're seeing, and this is normal. Social media, Insta famous, and this and that, and social anxiety.
That should be taught in the school, or the parents.
Both. That's what I think. Did I say that? You have to sit your kids down. Just like we talk about sex, now we have to start talking about mental illness. How do you feel? This is, your love. Don't feel this way. If you ever need to talk to anybody,
you gotta start asking each other, how do you feel? And really taking the answers seriously.
How are you really doing?
Start believing your kids. That's another thing. Parents have this thing where they don't like believe in they don't believe their kids.
I understood that. African parents will dismiss you. They will disregard that whatever issue you're going through as a phase, or they'll discipline you as a punishment, as if you're doing something wrong, by saying you have an issue or you have a problem or you're having these thoughts.
You know, we also have to talk about cyberbullying, especially with these social media. That literally, that's the new form of bullying now. Literally cyberbullying on Instagram, on Facebook, literally other teenagers and kids saying, kill yourself. Literally, the proof is there.
Which is worse than actually going through it face to face at
like in a
school.
box.
Because you can go back and read it over and over.
Right.
Exactly.
It's always there. You know, the internet keeps everything for life.
And for
statistics,
for our younger watchers, if you see somebody being bullied or somebody kind of experiencing those symptoms in your school, sometimes guidance counselors don't work. Speak up for them. Don't just be silent, because adolescence, that is really where it manifests itself. Talk. You young people out there, don't be silent. Stand up for your friends and classmates.
If I just had that, it would help. Listen, I'm a black nerd. Will always be. You know, literally grew up being bullied my entire life for who I was, where I came from. And if I just had that, I just needed that one person to just like say, hey, stand up for me. You know what I mean? Because like you can't tell your mother like, hey, I'm being bullied for who I am. They're pushing me around. They're talking about me. Nobody wants to hang out with me. And and you just need that one person. So it's so much more, like, you know, and that's why I feel like we need these type of organizations to come to schools and talk to these kids about that.
So to conclude the show, Cody, do you have any information that you might be able to share?
Definitely do. So for all our watchers watching, if you are experiencing any suicidal thoughts or behaviors, or know of somebody experiencing any suicidal thoughts or behavior, bouts of depression, please contact this number on our screen, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. Once again, please contact 1-800-273-TALK. Until next time, to our viewers, stay peaceful of the mind and love each other.
Love. Yes, and we love you.
We love you guys so much. The African American Millennials, see you guys later.
Nothing, I don't feel like anything for a person who's going through that moment would suffice, to be quite honest. The only thing I could say is just try your hardest. Just keep hope. Have hope. It will get better if you give it a chance. Give your life another chance. Just, I'm telling you, I didn't necessarily give my life another chance. It just so happened that God gave me the other chance. And I'm grateful for that, because I was able to do so much more for myself, for people who I love. Just give yourself the chance. It's hard now, I know it is. Trust me, I understand. It's hard. Just give yourself a chance.
When Shik brought up the experience she had with her depression and suicidal thoughts, it really struck a chord with me, because I've too been through similar experiences, and it just made me feel like, you know, you're never alone in anything. There's always someone out there who's going through something similar to yourself.
I teared up because I know how she feels, and I know the feeling of she outside, and I'm sure she is now, but you know, you would think that she was a strong Black woman. She was always strong, and it's not that. And I felt like her opening up is showing everybody that they can look like they're good on the outside, but the inside is what really matters.
I looked for the national or the continent-wide hotline for suicide/mental illness. If anyone knows the number, please put it in the comments below.
Thanks for watching, and if you liked this episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you next time.